Grab our back.
Hi, I'm Gilroy and this is the AusGamers Titanfall video review. We'll begin with the elephant in the room. For about 30 hours following the launch of Titanfall, Australians and our friends across the street were playing the game on either Japanese or Singaporean servers. This meant 150 plus pings unless you live in Western Australia, where things were looking up for you for the first time in recorded history. I don't care what anyone says about the competent lag compensation or the illusion it provided. The fact of the matter was, if you and another player have pings in the range of 0.2 of a second, then luck plays just as big a part in a 50-50 encounter as skill does. The way lag compensation works is by extrapolating known data about the player to provide a statistically likely range of movement and actions from that data. What this means is that what you see on your screen and what they see on theirs might not always be the same thing. So in a 50-50 encounter between two lagging opponents, there's a degree of luck involved in what each player will have to react to. And if one of those opponents happens to have a significantly lower ping than the other, the dice are weighted in their favour. Don't get me wrong, I played enough CS and Quake Online in the dial-up days to know that over time you can compensate to a degree for lag, but A, you shouldn't have to, and B, that sort of thing takes time. Anyway, it was all moot after 30 hours as EA, Respawn and Microsoft managed to get a Sydney-based server live, something I said would happen at the start of my written review, but everyone apparently ignored. They launched it as a beta server, which I guess means that they can get away with downtime or some such. Though beta servers for release software are an awkward proposal if you ask me. All I care about though is that I'm now rocking a sub 20 ping. The real Titanfall experience can begin. I figured I'd take the opportunity provided by this video review to talk about the PC version a bit. It's mostly the same experience as the Xbox One, though you're able to type to chat and the default setting for voice over IP is push to talk, a far superior setup compared to the always on mic on Xbox One. The other change is the default control scheme, something I recommend you look into and change immediately. Look at this nonsense. Time immemorial has seen the letter C represent crouch in games. Even in games where control is crouch, C is usually alt crouch. Here, it's melee. What the hell, Titanfall? Anyway, it's easy enough to fix, though make sure you don't unbound your mouse one by vigorously clicking the way I did right here. Anyway, let's talk about the game now, shall we? A lot of people are rejecting Titanfall, saying it's Call of Duty with mechs, and to be honest, I don't think that description is entirely inaccurate. There are significant similarities. The run and gun, aim down sight style is based off the same recipe and cooked by the same chefs, and so too is the way the game presents things like loadouts and player progression. Still, it's a bit like saying a ham and salad sandwich is a BLT. The components might be similar, but I'd only eat one of them for 3 meals every day. The Titans are a significant factor in the game, but they're really just a sideshow, not the endgame. So it should come as no surprise that they're fairly easy for players to handle. Think of the Titan like it's quad damage, but everyone is guaranteed the power up and the relative worth of the machines becomes obvious. Just as you might with quad, using your Titan requires you to delicately balance engaging other players and not overcommitting. If you get surrounded by other Titans, you'll wind up unable to deal with another enemy rodeoing you, and losing a machine will become an inevitability. But if you duck and weave and stick and move, you'll maximize the efficiency of your big mean machine. Still, the Titan is a tool, and it's not the right tool for every job. Because your giant robot is so susceptible to death by rodeo, unless you have electric smoke, maneuvering between buildings can make you vulnerable to attack in multiple directions. Beyond that, however, is the fact that In the Titan, you're essentially stuck to the ground. You can't jump in a Titan, so even mild ledges will cause you movement problems. And while you can dash, there are some routes pilots can take advantage of that let them outpace your robot. Like I said in the written review, player movement will be the key to Titanfall's longevity. While it might seem at the moment like the game has a low skill ceiling, once players learn the maps and learn how to move through them, we'll see it become a fairly competitive environment. In this short sequence, you can see the flag carrier is obviously tracking to get some height as he attempts to get back to his base. To beat him there, I will need to wall run myself, taking advantage of a line I'd scoped out earlier. In a lot of ways, I see the movement aspect to be quite similar to Skate. Both games hit a sweet spot between preparation and improvisation, where you can probably do well if you make everything up as you go along, but if you set out with a plan, one that can handle being changed partway through, you'll do much better. You don't look at the walls and think of them as cover, as you might in COD, you see the perfect line you might take to get through the game world as quickly as possible. Let's briefly discuss the AI and the idea of a 6v6 cap. The AI isn't supposed to be smart, and while we might have been told they exist to give bad players something to shoot at, that simply isn't the case in practice. They're actually much more similar to creeps in a MOBA game. While last hitting isn't necessary to get smaller build time in Titanfall, and the map doesn't stick to lanes, the way players can farm grunts and specters to bring their Titan in quicker is very reminiscent of the way players treat their AI in MOBA games like Dota or League of Legends. To this extent, I think the AI works very well, and if you look at Titanfall as a MOBA game turned FPS, the 6v6 limit doesn't seem so bad. Still, I would have liked a slightly higher number of players, or at least the opportunity to play with higher player counts through some sort of custom dedicated server setting. It might be apparent already, but I think quite a lot of Titanfall. Since the Australian servers came online, the game has worked very well, and if people would stop playing attrition and start playing domination or capture the flag instead, the wait times between matches wouldn't be too terrible. Still, a lot of my criticisms from my review remain. With the benefit of the mouse and keyboard, I can see that more maps provide opportunities for good movement, but there are still too many that fail to take into account the game's greatest strength. And the idea that there is a perk that gives players wall hacking ability is immediately abhorrent to me. That's pretty bad in practice too. It acts too much like a crutch for people who haven't learned to use their ears, and giving them the ability to see through walls gives them no reason to learn how. The aimbot style smart pistol isn't much better. Obviously in a face-to-face fight, the person not waiting for a lock-on will win, but that's not the advantage the smart pistol brings. The smart pistol acquires targets regardless of whether or not you're aware of them, rendering solid defensive positions useless if they get the drop on you. Still, even with these elements in the game, I find myself loving Titanfall. In-game players seem friendly and open to instruction, which is just a reminder that even if it bears similarities to the genre, Titanfall is not a MOBA game. The maps that facilitate solid movement are awesome, and I haven't had so much fun playing CTF in years. If you've been sitting on the fence waiting for better Aussie servers or just to see the game in action, I'm telling you, get into the game now. It's great.